Up, y'all. This class is pretty much called the secret to muscle growth. Um, we're talking mainly about the eccentric versus the concentric portion of every exercise. So if you really want to build muscle, you really got to focus on the eccentric portion of the exercise, of course, but you got to understand what both are as well. Okay. And there's a lot of terms that we're going to go over, especially. Like once you understand all this stuff, you're going to have a different kind of view on how you actually work out as well. Like you're gonna have like more intent when you're actually working out. You're just like you're gonna go into the gym not just to move weight. You're there to like actually know like why you're moving your muscles a certain way. Okay, so I decided to do this class because I was talking to Sam yesterday about just about like focusing on the negatives for the exercise because her goal is to tone up and to start to see more definition. So if you want to do that, you have to focus and kind of train like a bodybuilder. Not exactly like a bodybuilder, but to a certain extent, okay? Because again, most of us here are we only want to look good and feel good, not like a bodybuilder, but just feel good in our clothes, feel good in our skin when we go out to the beach, right? But there's some stuff that you kind of have to adopt kind of like a bodybuilder, like how a bodybuilder works out, okay? But like I promise you, once you understand all this stuff, the way you work out is going to be totally different and you're going to see crazy results after this as well, okay? So what to expect out of this class, pretty much why eccentric training leads to greater hypertrophy. So why eccentrics lead to bigger muscle growth. Number two is vasodilation. So another big term. So we have three big terms. Vasodilation, like how that impacts muscle growth as well, and also how to apply time under tension in order to break these plateaus of looking flat. Okay. So once you understand these things, like all these three things, you're gonna see oh no, you're pretty much going to change how you work out. Okay, so for every lift, so just diving right in, every lift, there's always two phases. So it's the concentric, where the muscle shortens, and the eccentric, where the muscle is stretched out. Okay, so in basic terms, or like the most basic example would be like a bicep curl, right? So the concentric portion, yes, I'm flexing is when you're flexing, right? So the concentric portion of a bicep exercise would be when you're flexing the bicep, okay? The eccentric portion is when you're lowering the weight and you feel a big stretch in your bicep. That's the eccentric portion. And usually in the eccentric portion is actually when you're growing your muscles, okay? Or that's where the growth happens. So again, today we're diving in why eccentric movement is part of, or is the key to hypertrophy, and how vasodilation plays a role, and also why time under tension is important in the eccentric phase. Okay, so straight to the basics. Um, the concentric movement, again, muscle shortening. This is when your bicep is shortened. This is when it's lengthened. Okay. Most people, when they go into the gym, they just focus on just moving the weight. Boom, 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 boom. Doing stuff like randomly, just moving the weight with no intent whatsoever. Okay? That's not going to get you anywhere. Of course, it's going to burn calories, but honestly, you're not really going to build muscle from doing that. Okay? So, um, the bottom line is both of these phases matter, the shortening and the lengthening. Okay? And the eccentric portion is where you get the most bang for your buck in terms of muscle building and muscle growing. And I'm going to show you exactly how to tap into it fully. Okay, so for example, if I were to, so I'm going to demonstrate like all the movements pretty much for the whole body. Okay, so for upper pull is usually like a pull down or a row, right? So the eccentric portion of an upper pull would be when your lat is lengthened. So when you feel a stretch in your like in your lats. Okay. So this is eccentric. When you're pulling it back and actually pulling, You're flexing your lats. That's the concentric. Okay, so eccentric, concentric. And if I were to say in one of the workouts that I usually write for you, 3 seconds on the lower ring, you would do this. 3 seconds going down, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 second pull back. So eccentric, concentric, stretched, flexed. Okay, moving on. Upper push, very similar. Okay, so when you're doing a bench press, or let's do like a chest press, for example, chest press machine. This is the eccentric portion, when your chest is fully stretched. The concentric portion is when your chest is fully flexed, right? Eccentric, concentric. If I say 3 seconds on the lowering for the exercise, for the chest press, you would slowly bring it down. So 1, 2, 3, and maybe I'll add a hold, 2 second hold at the bottom, and 1 second concentric push. Okay. Eccentric, concentric. Okay. So moving on to the lower body now. So lower push, like the most popular lower push exercise would probably be the squat, right? So for example, this is the concentric portion, the squat. Going down is the eccentric portion. Okay, so slowly going down is the eccentric because that's when your hammies, sorry, so that's when your quads, mainly your quads, are getting stretched because we're talking about push, right? So your quads are being stretched, but also your hammies as well, and your glutes, right? But focusing on the quads because lower push. So when you're going down, that's the eccentric portion. Going up is the concentric portion, like you're flexing your quads. Bringing the quads down, or like bringing your body down, that's the eccentric. Going up is the concentric. Different with the leg press, if you're like on a decline leg press, going down. Well, yeah, actually, no, like it's the same thing. But make sure like going down is going to be the eccentric, pushing away from you is the concentric. And lower pull, the best example I would give you is the RDL. So for an RDL, let's see if my camera can get this. It's got it. Okay, so the eccentric portion is when your hammies are fully stretched, just like this. So this is the eccentric portion, and hammies are fully stretched. The concentric portion is when you're squeezing your butt as hard as you can, you're flexing your hammies and your glutes. Okay, so I could say 3 seconds or 5 seconds on the eccentric portion for the RDL. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe a 2 second hold. 1, 2, and 1 second concentric push. Okay. So if you are unsure of all the movements again, you can always resort to this video and use this as a reference. Okay. If you forget about the lowering or the eccentric or the concentric, etc. Okay. So we're going to go super technical about this stuff right now. So the science behind muscle damage. So when it comes to building muscle, main triggers for growth is muscle fiber damage. So you have to create micro tears in your muscle fibers in order to build that muscle. So this isn't bad damage. This is what signals your body to repair and grow bigger and stronger. So the eccentric movements cause greater mechanical stress and more micro trauma than concentric movements. Okay, so the lengthening portion or the stretching portion is going to tell your body, hey, we need to adapt and grow. This is one reason why you feel more sore when you do more exercises that involved eccentrics or lengthenings or stretchings, right? But yeah, not only eccentrics create more damage, but they also activate more fast twitch fibers, which are the greatest for growth potential, right? So these fast twitch fibers, they fatigue faster, but they're essential for strength and size for muscles. Okay. So here's something that not enough people talk about. Eccentric training has a neurological benefit. So If you ever heard about the term mind to muscle connection, that's what it is. Okay. So pretty much you're building a better connection with your brain and the specific muscle you're targeting, pretty much. And that's why when I usually train clients in person, I focus on mostly the eccentric portion of the exercise. So it'd be 3 seconds on the eccentric, and then 2 second hold at the bottom, and then 1 second concentric. So that'd be 3, 2, 1, 1 tempo, right? So the biggest takeaway here, pretty much, is when you focus on eccentrics, you're going to build that mind to muscle connection. When you have more of that mind to muscle connection, it's going to be faster for you to build that muscle as well. Okay, so because you know exactly which muscle you're hitting, rather than being someone at the gym that just like moves around, does whatever bullshit that they want to do, right? Where you're not really working out with intent, you're just moving your body. Okay. You are burning calories. Cool. But like if our goal is to get toned, we have to be working out with intent. Okay. So what is time under tension as well? So time under tension, which also goes by TUT, is simply like how long your muscles are working during a set. So the longer they're under tension, there's going to be more stimulus for growth. Okay, so more signals to grow. Okay, so when you slow down the eccentric portion of your lift, you're dramatically going to increase the time under tension without needing more reps or heavier weights. So instead of just moving through a rep, you're forcing your muscle to control the movement, um, active, activate the stabilizers, which are other muscles, and resist gravity. So this creates a deeper burn and a longer lasting fatigue. And just imagine doing a squat for 5 seconds, like a 5 second negative. Your quads, your glutes, your hammies, they're going to be under strain for a long time. And that strain creates metabolic stress, which leads to muscle swelling and then triggers anabolic signals in the body, which is how muscle is built, right? So the eccentric time under tension also leads to greater muscle fiber recruitment as well. So you're not just hitting surface level muscle fibers, you're digging in deeper to the tissue, forcing the body to bring in back up all the muscles or like all the parts of the muscle you've never felt ever, right? And that's what's going to help with the growth as well. Okay, so that means more fibers are going to be recruited and trained. Therefore, they're going to be broken down for more growth. Okay, so again, you're going to unlock muscles you never felt before when you have more time under tension, um, because they're going to need help to lift that heavy weight, right? So next time you train, instead of just rushing your reps, just slow them down, especially on the negative or the eccentric, right? Or the lowering part or the stretching part, right? There's many ways people say it, okay? And just a few more seconds under time under tension is going to make a big difference between staying the same and actually seeing real progress. The last big word is vasodilation. And don't worry about not totally understanding what this is. You'll understand it after this class. Okay. So pretty much that's the process of blood vessels widening to allow more blood flow. So imagine this is your muscle fiber, right? So when you are under a higher time under tension and you're getting more blood flow into your your muscle fibers, each week it's slowly going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? The longer you have time under tension with more blood flow during the eccentric portion of the exercise, the bigger the muscle fiber is going to get over time. Okay. So put a 3 in the Zoom chat if you feel like you're slowly understanding this. Okay. So again, eccentric portion is the best time to have more blood flow. You want more time under tension so you can have more blood flow during that time, which is going to slowly increase the space in between your muscle fibers. And it's slowly going to get bigger, 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 bigger. Okay. And that's pretty much what hypertrophy is. It's just pretty much expanding your muscle fibers. Okay. And why does this matter? Well, it means you're getting more oxygen more nutrients, more hormones like testosterone and growth hormone into an area that's working. Okay. So think of it as your body's delivery system going into overdrive. So vasodilation also leads to the famous muscle pump that people feel. And it's not just for the looks. It's like that pump creates swelling, which signals the body to grow. And it creates a temporary increase in muscle size, but more importantly, it's a trigger for long-term hypertrophy. Okay, so as long as if you're feeling sore after a workout, your body's going to be like that's a signal for your body to grow bigger for your muscles. Okay, so the eccentric phase is uniquely positioned to create this response. So when you slow it down and stretch the muscle under tension, enhancing the vasodilation and extending the pump, that's you expanding your muscle fibers. Okay, so if you want to grow, you need more blood in the muscle, pretty much. And the best way to get more blood into the muscle is combining slow eccentrics with higher time under tension. Okay, it's not just science, it's honestly the biggest untapped training tool people always dismiss. They don't like follow this, right? They just go into the gym, move weights around with no intent, right? So, I'm gonna explain a example of how vasodilation works, and just by using like those long balloons that you get at like the carnival or something, and then they tie it up into like a dog. We'll use that, for example, for your muscle fiber. Okay. So imagine your muscle fiber, one of your muscle fibers is one of those long balloons. Okay. So we're going to put that balloon, that long balloon, it's deflated, by the way. It's deflated and we're going to crush it up. So it's not fully crushed. Like you can still pump it up, but then you notice that when you pump it up, it's harder because it's totally crushed like this, right? It's harder for air to get in there because it's crushed, it's flexed, it's shortened, right? So again, in the concentric portion of the exercise, it's going to be hard to get blood flow through it, and it's going to be hard to expand the balloon or your muscle fiber. Switch to the eccentric portion. So, for example, if I were to stretch that balloon out, eccentric portion of the exercise, it's super easy to pump blood or air into the balloon, right? And that balloon is going to expand and expand and expand and get bigger over time. The more blood flow you have running through it. That's pretty much vasodilation is. During the eccentric portion, it's easier to pump blood flow through it so that muscle fiber can expand. When it's crushed up in the concentric portion, you're not going to see the expansion of your muscle fiber, which is why, again, eccentric portion is the most important part if you want to grow your muscle. Okay. So if you don't understand it after all of me, or like this whole, like maybe like 15 minutes of me talking about it, just just DM me on Instagram about this class. Okay. So pretty much the key takeaways from this class is one, eccentric training causes more muscle damage, which causes growth, right? Number two, if you have more time under tension during the eccentric phase, that's what's going to expand those muscle fibers and slowly make them bigger. And vasodilation is like during the eccentric movements, that's what floods the muscle with nutrients and anabolic signals to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. So when you're working out next time, slow down. Think about the eccentric portion. Have more control, which is going to cause more growth and less injuries as well, because you're going to go lighter as well when you focus on the eccentric portion. Okay. And if you've only been focused on just like exercising and moving your body, start owning that exercise with the negative or the lower or the eccentric, because that's honestly where the real gains are made. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, um, feel free to message me. So you can leave a question here, or you can message me on Instagram or personally if you have my Telegram. But Instagram at Ben Strauss Coaching, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.